What's he working on? Do you know?
A bunch of shit. He's working on a compressor or something.
Oh, yeah, compressor.
That big ass mixer.
Yeah, because he teased some like black metal panel prototypes of something on Instagram or some shit.
Yeah, there's like 3 new things in the works that are probably going to be shown at NAMM. It always blows my mind when you see like the footage and the pictures of NAMM, and it just seems so fucking massive, like all the modular shit, you know, in the sense. And then you look at the fucking diagram for it, they're literally like a blip. You know what I mean? Like in the whole thing, like they just have this little corner for the modular and the synth stuff, and it's like, holy fuck. You have some Eventide processors,
Yeah,
right?
the Eclipse that I got from a friend of mine, Mariana, years ago for like half price. And fucking, that thing's amazing. A lot of the stuff we were playing today was running through that at points.
Oh, nice. It sounded great.
Yeah, that's a hell of a processor.
I always wanted either an Eclipse or like the old school H3000s and shit.
Oh yeah,
for
I would
like
love
vocal processing. But what do you use it for primarily? Like you run beats through it, or
yeah,
like synths and shit?
Beats, synths, everything. It's on an aux send from the desk, so a lot of stuff goes through it. But
How many things can you go through at once?
You can do dual mono, but it's stereo in, stereo out.
Okay.
It's the H8000 has like 2 pairs of stereo outs, and then this new 9000 has like 8 ins and 8 outs.
Nice.
Yeah, it seems ridiculous.
What were you running through earlier today?
My modular signal, your modular signal.
Oh,
That's
nice.
pretty much it.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, it helps to glue. Well, it can, glue sounds together, kind of, if you have them run through the same processor, obviously. But doing a little of that.
I feel like that's what I'm lacking in now. It's like I don't have any, aside from like a million different distortions.
Right.
I don't have like a processor proper.
Yeah, because Clouds isn't that.
No.
It's like it can be.
I've used it for that, but it's not that.
No.
Yeah. And I used to have the old Boss shit. Like I had the SE70 and all that stuff. But that's gone now. I had a couple things that I sold too because I just wasn't too thrilled with them. I had that Fireworks.
Oh,
thing.
right.
That thing sucked. It was a TC Electronic. I think it was TC Electronic.
I think so.
It was just like a processor, you know what I mean? But it just didn't get me where I needed. You know what I mean? Like it had very limited processing power. Like you could get granular with its little like digital module things. Like you'd get into the OS and set things up, and just when I started to get things like where I'd like to be, it would run out of juice, and I couldn't add more things to it. And I'm just like, fuck this, it was real annoying. But
yeah, the Eclipse is cool too because it loads all the pedals, like all their Eventide pedals. You can just load any of the presets like right from there.
Nice.
Like, a lot of them were taken from that and put into the space pedal, like the Echo Space of God or whatever preset or something, like a lot of like the black hole preset.
No,
like,
they
came
the black
from
hole.
That,
yeah, okay.
And then they kind of ported it over to that pedal. But I have that H9 too. That thing's fucking awesome. The white one.
The little white guy. I didn't know you had that.
Oh yeah,
that's actually
totally
what I was
sweet.
just looking at recently.
I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It sounds just as good as the rack does.
What's all in that aside from reverb? Does it have other shit too?
Everything. You can load all those pedal presets. There's the core one, there's the mid-grade one, and then like the maxed out one.
Okay.
And the mid-grade one, that's what I got. It comes with like 4 presets, and they're like $20 a pop when you get them through the store or whatever. But they have a deal right now that I'm probably going to do where I can max out my shit for like half the price. So it'll be like $150 instead of $300 for me just to have it like everything. And then from that point, when you max it out, you get everything for free in the future.
What's the difference then between owning one of those little guys or like the big?
There are more parameters. Well, there are probably more parameters. It's a little nicer to edit the rack because you can just be like, oh, this, and then turn the knob. Whereas that, like the pedals, you got to page through it.
Okay.
But it also has the app, which is pretty sweet. And I think it's Android or iOS, and then you can just edit. Like you can see everything from here. It hooks up over Bluetooth. Change all the shit right here.
Holy shit! Oh, that's really nice.
And it's real easy to use. Like, and this is like the morphing between preset, but you kind of like the Nord modular does with the morphing of the presets. It's actually easier on the device itself. It's like the hot knob.
It has like one knob or something.
Yeah, it has
okay.
one knob. And on the iPad, it's like a lot of... It looks just like their Space of the Time Factor pedals. It's like the same format, kind of.
Yeah, because I've been seeing those a lot in like modular videos lately. A lot of people running shit through them, and I didn't even know what it was. Because, I mean, it had one knob, and I was like, oh, I don't give a fuck about whatever that is. But then I started to hear, like, you know, I watched like a couple, not like demos of the unit, but just demos of other shit running through it. And I'm like, well, that sounds good. And I was like, what is this thing?
And the expression input 0 to 5 volt. So
Okay.
you can modulate it with a modular.
Nice. And how many like modulation inputs does that have? Like
Just one.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's better than none.
Yeah, it's better than none. But you have to make sure it's like rectified. You don't want to go bipolar with it. So there's a Audio
It'll just
Damage
explode.
dude has some video of like, here's this really simple circuit you can make or something. It's actually just a cable with I forget, it's some like kind of hack to make it only positive voltage, whatever signal you shoot into it. Or you can just deal with it in the modular.
Interesting. Another thing for me to spend fucking money on.
The cool thing is that like when you max it out or whatever, if you buy the maxed out one, if you buy the cheap one, if you get another one, it has like all your presets. So it's like you can buy the cheap ones then and they have everything still. So it's kind of like, it's not just a shady scheme. Like you can, if you want multiples of them, which I could see having another for sure. I use it directly on the Blofeld right now because Blofeld effects suck.
Yeah.
And it makes the machine glitch out when you use them. So
Is it roadworthy? Is it something you can take out?
You could throw it down the steps and it would be fine, I bet. That's how I test all the gear.
Throw it down.
Throw it down the fucking steps. Oh yeah, it broke. No, I gotta call Sweetwater.
Sweetwater has just blocked your number.
Yeah.
Dude, stop throwing shit down the steps.
I got the Analog 4, the Electron, and then returned it the next day. And the dude was all pissed off because like the packaging was fucked up. And I didn't really fuck up the packaging. It was however it came to me. I didn't like do anything shitty to it. He was just jagged off that like they, you know, if you do it in 30 days, you get the full price back. You just paid shipping. And I was like, I don't like the sound of this fucking thing. First he was trying to give me a hard time, but you know, he caved.
Wait,
After I threatened the life of his children.
what was his argument? You don't like it?
Oh
Like,
yeah, he was just pissed off that he lost a sale, I think.
Gotcha. But like, was he trying to convince you? No, it sounds better than.
Is there something else you want? Like, no, dude, you don't fucking know me. Like, this is not. Oh yeah, I'll take that fucking, you know, JDXI or whatever, the Roland thing. No, I don't want your Roland Gaia, sir. Sorry. No disrespect to that synth.
But now I'm imagining the Electron has like a Glenn Ross type of thing. Alec Baldwin is just yelling at that guy. Coffee's for the closers.
They beat that dude soundly that day.
So what other topics do we want to talk about besides beating sales representatives?
Sales representative.
Do we just want to, before we dive into like individual shit, do like anything that we considered our favorites from 2016, like personal shit? I think right off the bat, I would say my favorite of 2016 was the Stillson Hammer Mark II.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you were gonna say the Fuzz Factory.
Nope.
Okay. So all right, to make your case for the Stillson Hammer.
I don't know. It was just like it was exactly kind of what I was looking for. You know what I mean? Before I even knew what Stillson was capable of, it's kind of what I was looking for out of a Euro rack sequencer. I like how easy it is to dial shit in on it. All the sliders. I like the fact that you have multiple tracks that you can clock divide down to 32. I like the fact that you can just randomize not only the whole sequence but elements of it. It was the sequencer I wanted.
Yeah. Now, to play devil's advocate, you don't have it now.
Not currently.
So what was it that made you get rid of it?
Rack space. I didn't have enough for it, but now that I have the Mantis case and I was able to move some bigger shit to that, I have the rack real estate again for a big sequencer module.
So it wasn't some deficiency like you.
No, not at all. I liked it. I just at the time I was doing more percussive shit, and I had the variegate, and I was like, I don't need this right this second. So I just got rid of it until I, was going to expand my rack. I wasn't sure how I was going to expand it, but I was just planning on doing it. And then like a month after I sold it, the Mantis case came out, and I was like, okay, problem solved. Now that I have the space, I'm going to get it back as soon as possible because I need my sequencing.
Yes.
Gotta have it.
Yeah. And I don't know, I've fucked with a lot of different sequencers, over the years, and I don't think none of them were so instantly gratifying as the Stillson was. You know what I mean? It's just like, at least for the shit that I do. You know what I mean? I'm not doing Tangerine Dream. You know what I mean? Like I'm using my sequencer to like spit out weird random rhythmic noise sequences or as just strange modulation sources for other modules. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like it's perfect for it.
What would that put you up as far as number of sequencers you have? 'Cause you got the Variegate, you got the
Metropolis. Yeah, so that'll be sequencer 3. I like the Variegate, but it just doesn't cut it for CV sequencing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's powerhouse of a gate sequencer, and that's what I use it for. You know, I think the 2 CV tracks on it are a nice bonus, but not something that I use very much or fulfills all my sequencing needs. I would say, you know. And the Metropolis, like I was talking earlier, it does one style of sequencing very well. And not much else, you know what I mean? So I think the Stillson will fill in all the gaps that I have currently in my system. But yeah, the Fuzz Factory, nice runner-up, but I wouldn't consider it one of my tops of the year. I mean, it already existed as a pedal.
That's true.
And I have a lot of other distortions. It's a great distortion module, but it wasn't all that mind-blowing or innovative. You know what I mean?
I'm drawing a blank on the name, but the little guy with the little...
Chronoblob.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, Chronoblob?
Yeah.
It's a delay.
Okay.
It doesn't blow me away. It's cool. And I can't remember if that actually came out this year. That might have been late 2015.
I don't think anyone's going to hold our feet to the fire there with that.
We will. We're
going to get complaints.
We're going to get flamed.
Shitty feedback.
Yeah.
If we are, then if we're going to like be a little not
sketchy with
so
time.
If we're gonna bend the space-time continuum here, I'll say that my second runner-up then would be the circuit bent VCO.
Oh yeah.
E390 by Synthesis Technology. I think that thing's fucking great. It released in late December 2015. I didn't get mine until 2016, so we'll say it counts.
Close enough.
Yeah. But yeah, I can just get fucking ridiculously absurd sounds out of that thing. I mean, it's a vocal synthesis.
Prove it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a speech synthesis thing, but you know, I don't know. You can get a lot more out of it than just that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you start hitting that thing with all kinds of CV. Looking forward to getting the expansion.
Yeah.
I've tried to get it twice so far, and each time it sold out at Control Mod. Yeah. And I don't really, like we were just discussing earlier, I don't like doing the whole pre-order thing, so I've just been waiting for it to get back in stock proper, and then I'll get it then. But
have you thought about offering to do demos in like of that, but like in the way that you would do it? Because like when he does it, they're great demos, but they're very like oh, it's Speak and Spell, like it has that sort of vibe to it. You can just sit there, and when he's done, just go, all right, well, and here's the other shit you can do with it, and then go nuts and make it sound like hell.
I mean, it does.
Cries.
Why are you doing this?
It's not how you do it. It's supposed to say emergency. Yeah, the expand I think is going to be dope though, from what I can tell. I mean, I was kind of already using the Time Safari and clouds and shit to make it do that style of like looping, stuttering shit. And anyways, but it would be nice to have the screen telling you, you know, all that information, what you're working with, and all that jazz. It's a nice expansion. It looks like he put a lot of thought behind it. But yeah, that's my 2016 favorites.
All right.
Am I up?
Well, all right. Well, I mean, we can quickly go through mine because I got almost nothing in 2016. So unless you want me to go at length about how great that 2 HP envelope generator is.
Hey,
it's actually really nice, but I can only say so many words about
an envelope.
Generator.
That was your KnobCon purchase, right?
It was, yeah. It's. I mean, all kidding aside, I really do use the shit out of it, and it is amazing for the 2 HP, but it is not very sexy at all. So
that's how the LFO kind of is. Like it does. It's got a reset input, CV input, and output for the LFO, and actually gate out too. So that's what I want an LFO to be. It's got basic waveforms,
and it's taking up a polite amount of space. Yeah, I don't need a shitload of space for something that's doing a bread and butter utility thing.
Right. Yeah. Same thing with that LFO. Like you're not gonna fuck with it too much. You know. Yeah. Like maybe a little.
But it's a very anticlimactic 2016 purchase. There might have been something late 2015 I got. I can't remember that far back.
Yeah, it is hard to remember that. Yeah. For me, like I think at the beginning of last year, of 2016, I was about to throw like my whole modular out the fucking window because I just wasn't using it much. Now I use it all the time, and I'm pretty psyched about that. Top two, I think it's a tie for me, would be Variegate and Polaris. Polaris, that's a great filter. Like I don't know. That's one of the most versatile filters I've ever used. It can get all over the place.
You're going to have to sell Greg on that because I think he hates it.
Yeah, all three that I'm looking at right now. And Variegate, actually, it took me a minute. I wasn't super sold on the Variegate at first. And now, like, I don't really think about it, which is kind of my gauge for a sequencer. I just wanted to kind of get out of the way. And I'm getting much more familiar with it now. But, I have I'd like it a little more maybe if it was 6 gate channels and 4 CV. Like, that would probably do the trick for me. Not that I don't use all of them. And, editing notes on it isn't the most fun because it's hard to see where the note was set at, and it's just a little fiddly, and you're trying to look on that bar graph that might be obscured by a bunch of cables or something. But on the whole, it does the trick. It didn't at all for me when it was out of calibration. When he told me the secret calibration trick, then everything fell together. Reminds me of the machine drum a little. I use the CV outs for just parameter sequencing a lot. So the voltage block is interesting in that way, but I don't think I'll go for the voltage block. I don't really have the space for it.
How much HP is the voltage block?
I think it's like 20 maybe or something. Like it's not small.
Right. Yeah, look big.
Yeah, it might be the same as that actually, that's probably like 24 or something.
I definitely think it's like comparable in size, maybe a little bit smaller.
I don't know if I need that much CV like sequencing. I can get a lot of that just using the MIDI box and MIDI to CV converter and just like CCs to get like, sequences of like parameter modulation and shit. But yeah, Variegate and Polaris would probably be it for me. I don't even know, did Polaris come out this year or was it last year?
I think it was last year.
Yeah.
It's pretty new.
Yeah, I mean, IntelliGel did that whole block of new shit, but they all came out at different times. They were all announced like at the same time, so I can't remember. Polaris was the first thing that dropped.
Like the micro MIDI, that was part of it too.
Yeah, the little UMIDI compression module.
Oh yeah, Jelly Squasher, Rainmaker, that shit.
The boombox stereo thing. Yeah, they dropped like all that pretty much around the same time, but then like the releases were kind of staggered. So
yeah, because Rainmaker was not out until
that was this
late.
year.
Yeah,
and that was announced at the same time too. I think all that was the weird thing with the Polaris too is that it didn't really get much fanfare. Like when all that stuff got released, like the Polaris wasn't even like, it wasn't included. You know what I mean? And like the announcements, I just like refreshed their page one time and saw that it was there. I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like, this looks like a nice filter and it's cool. I guess compared to like the announcement of the Rainmaker and all that jazz, it kind of fell to the wayside a bit. But yeah, I agree. It's a hell of a filter.
That's another comment on my top two. You can't have those two modules in the same case together.
What's that?
Because you're gonna hear every bit of that Variegate LED noise through that Polaris.
Oh yeah.
Like it doesn't. I don't know how much it affects yours right now, but for me, like it was. It fucking drove me crazy.
Mine not so much right now, but I have noticed with other shit, and especially since I put the Trash Master in there, I will hear the noise through the Trash Master. And I guess that's just a common problem with filters in general when mixed with certain digital things. Like I've noticed a lot of bleeding and things like that.
Like all the bubble sound stuff you can hear that Variegate in there. The thing must shit out a lot of radio frequency.
One of them was worse than others. Of my three, yeah. Huh. I can't remember which one. Weird. One of them was bleeding a little more. It's kind of weird.
I know people complain, like you pointed me to those threads. People complain about noise in the Polaris modules too, just from digital
on
stuff.
The multi-out.
Yeah, on the multi-out.
On shit.
Yep. But yeah, also, Bassimilus, of course. I don't think I need to like talk about that module much anymore and its awesomeness.
Yeah. I mean, we've definitely talked about how we all dig it in a previous episode, but
oh shit, that reminds me, I got that little Carrick.
Oh yeah
that is something else I bought in 2016.
I
don't know if it actually,
and that's new.
That's 2016. That counts.
I think I'm almost sure.
So.
Close enough. I'm counting that.
We're counting it.
Yeah, I'm counting that.
Counted.
Yeah.
All right.
Bitbox too. Bitbox is heavy runner up there. Feel like there's still some. On the whole, it's awesome. Does exactly what it says for the most part. I can't get the MIDI part to work. I don't know if it's the cable that I got off eBay that's supposed to work like, it uses the TRS mini jack, like MIDI stuff as one of the clock options. I always do the analog clock from my MIDI to CV converter because it seems like it's more consistent that way. And if you want to use it to loop, that works a little better that way. So the MIDI clock, that didn't work out so well for me. Maybe something's wrong there. But some UI things that could be ironed out for sure. I know it's the first release of the firmware, basically. There are no updates yet, but there's a good list of stuff that seems reasonable. Like, you can't use folders to dig into the samples. Everything's got to be on the root folder right now.
Okay.
Which is so you got to scroll through hundreds, literally, of samples if you want a lot of stuff on that bank. That seems like hopefully you can get folders working on that. Some other little things, like when you go to switch the output, you can only switch like for a whole column of tracks to send it to the FX1 or FX2 output. So you've got to go to the track setup and then assign that there. It would be nice if you could just do it like any sample cell could go to any output. I'm not sure why it's limited to the columns like that. It seems like he's like, oh yeah, we could eventually change that. He's very responsive on the Muff forum about requests that people have. Other little stuff, it'd be cool if you could actually see what output that column was going to on the main screen if it was like a 1 or a 2, but it's not. You have to go like 3 or 4 button presses back to be like, oh yeah, that's assigned to FX2 or something. So if you want to repatch it, something to work with a preset that you made, you kind of got to do some digging to go back.
And there's enough screen real estate for you to actually put that number on there.
They're like empty button slots. And other things like you can only change some menu items with the knob instead of just hitting like the section, the pad itself. Like, it's touchscreen for people that don't know. But it's a touchscreen module, and it's really sensitive too. You can play beats on the touchscreen. Like, not that you'd want to do that all the time, but it works really well in that regard. The looping, I've had partial success with. I mean, it doesn't work as well as Ableton works for me as far as looping, which is like sample accurate and pretty damn perfect. You can tell when you record something and then play it back against that channel, it like flanges a little bit constantly, and not within the loop either. It's like drifting over time, it seems. It'll do the trick, but I don't know if it would be like a little portable Ableton like I thought it would be, like for a live set. It might be able to get it to work that way. I think especially, and I even took like a perfectly cut loop for my test, like from Ableton. Like, all right, 128 BPM loop or whatever, cut it perfectly, put it in there. Now set up a sequence that's 128 being driven from my sync gen, which is like perfect, like MIDI clock basically. Try to line it up against that, and that's when I heard the phasing. I'm like, all right, there's something a little off here. And even when you reset it, it kind of resets a little slowly. Like when you hit it with a reset, well, actually it doesn't have a reset input. When it stops receiving clock, it knows after like a little bit. It's like, oh, this is done, and the next time I get a clock, I'm going to reset everything, which does work like well enough.
Okay.
But one thing about it, it's always running the clock on it. In the upper left, there's a little like bar and beat count, or it's just measures that have gone by. I don't know why you didn't have a reset input on it. That's a really cool thing that the Orthogonal 301, their sampler, does, is any of the gate inputs can be used as a reset, which would be like a really nice feature to have. Like, why not just have anything reset that? Sure. So hopefully the hardware is like robust enough that he's not limited by a bunch of stuff. Like, oh no, you can't possibly do that. Because he didn't seem to balk at like using the inputs as outputs too. But even if the stereo output, it would be cool if you could use those as 2 monos as well. You can't do that right now. So you'd have 4 outputs instead of 2, which I could get down with because I'm not putting much stereo stuff in there. I've sampled some cloud stuff in there, but at that point, if you're looping stereo, you got twice the chance of it being out of phase or clicks or something like that when you're looping it around. But sounds awesome. The quality of it's great. You don't get much CV input. You get start and length, which is great. You get pitch too, which you get like plus or minus 12 semitones, so like an octave up and an octave down, and then you get the ability to trigger an entire column of stuff at one time with the CV input. So that's kind of a cool feature.
Are there choices for the pitch algorithm, or like the
nope?
Is there just one?
There's just one.
Do you know which one it is?
No, that's a good question, but no, it does no time stretching or anything like that. Just simple pitch. It sounds good enough. it's working out really well for me, especially once I moved my own sample set into it. But then it makes you want like, I'm almost glad it only has 3 kind of outputs, because it makes you want a full chain of stuff to process through all that. So I generally have one going into clouds, maybe, dual input on clouds, or just one that's like maybe through a filter and then back out to a mixing desk so I can put effects on it, something like that.
And that's by 1010?
Yeah, 1010 Music. I think it's their only module.
Right on.
But I hope he keeps it going. I don't think he'll go too crazy. Like the Orthogonal Devices sampler, it seems like that dude is going to go nuts for years on that thing. And you can even replace the CPU on that. It's like a totally modular setup. So when that new CPU version comes out, you just plug it into the back of the module and you get more horsepower and more sampling space and stuff, which is like pretty brilliant setup. So I still have some strong lust for that 301, but it's like $880 to get it from Japan.
Yeah, I was
to
gonna
your
say,
door.
it kind of seems like apples and oranges, different sides of the spectrum there.
But it makes me like, the thing has, CV controlled effects that you can put in chains like kind of unlimited until you run out of horsepower, it seems. So it's tempting, but I don't know. Can't even get them right now.
Yeah, that thing seemed more like the modular version of an Octatrack, whereas like the Bitbox is like the modular version of like an MPC.
Exactly. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. So the looping, I don't know. I need to play with that a little more. But right now, just as like, you have 16 samples in your modular that you can trigger that sound awesome. 2496, like it's not hard to be mad at that.
Yeah.
And the modulation with the start and length is cool. You can get that kind of, I would always use Ableton Granulator for that kind of like stuttery, drawn out stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that, but I would do shit like that, in conjunction with like time stretching, because then you can get a little more gnarly and shit with it. But it seems to be kind of like what I'm using the Taraz for now, you know what I mean? But I really needed a looper for live shit too, so.
Yeah, it's a hell of a pair with the Variegate. They kind of, work very well together, because you can trigger all those samples with it, and it's just been using the hell out of those too. I kind of wish it was a little deeper at points, but as far as like selling the Octatrack and getting that, no regrets at all. I was not using it to make music. Yeah. No, I use this shit in music all the time now. And before that, I was not like, I was kind of struggling to integrate my modular, especially since I got rid of Renee. I
always forget that you got rid of that.
Yeah, a while ago. And
I thought that was your jam.
At one point, I was going to get it back, and then tried the Variegate instead, and pretty happy with that so far. I could see having both for sure, but not anytime soon. So you think you're going to keep the Variegate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the shit out of the Variegate 4. Yeah, I just wanted it to be 16 steps instead of 8. That was my only complaint with it. And now with this thing, it's beast. I use a lot of the channels in weird ways, even though I don't have as many drum modules currently, which I guess that could help me segue into the DrumBrute. It's been such a fucking hit or miss in my opinion with drum modules. Like some of them are not deep enough, some of them are just trying to be everything in one, you know what I mean? It's hard to find a good middle ground, which I guess is why I like the Salamoose so much, you know what I mean? Like the Alter version, I feel like it's solid as fuck, you know what I mean? It does what it does very well, and it sounds unique, you know what I mean? There's so many drum modules out there that are just trying to do the whole 909 808 thing, and
and there's enough of a market out there for people who are looking for exactly that sound, and then they can plug it in. It's not super expensive, but they're also not going to get lost in a million features, and they're getting that sound that they want. At this point, we don't need another one of those.
Not in modular.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that's well covered.
I guess some people do, but that's just not what I wanted out of my modular. You know what I mean? I want to be able to craft something different. So at the moment, I don't have too many drum modules, again, but I did get the DrumBrute for the price of a drum module. And I'm trying to integrate it, like I was explaining, into the modular. You know what I mean? Utilize all the individual voice outs and run them through the modular for processing.
You were saying you got those 2 modules for bringing it up to module level?
Yeah, I got I can't remember what it's called, but it's from Ladek. They're on the way. They haven't arrived yet, unfortunately. But they're just little preamp modules to take something from line to modular level. And so with the pair, I'll have 8 preamps basically for pretty much each voice on there.
Well, each of the voices that you would want to use.
Right.
Because
yeah, some of them are a little flaky, as you heard the hats.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
And some of them are kind of nice, like the kick and the clap.
Yeah.
I don't know. I like those. And it got the zap.
Zap's good.
The zap's amazing.
Zap is good.
People were hating on the zap, but I think it's fantastic.
It's a nice app. It could be better.
There's room for improvement on the zap.
Does that have individual track lengths? Can you?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah.
There you have to do mild menu diving to enable that. It's called polyrhythm mode, basically. You can't just do it by default. I guess they didn't want people getting confused. So you have to do like a shift and then hit the polyrhythm button, which I think is sequence step 16 will enable it, and then you can have individual track lengths.
So it's always quantized. Like you can't record unquantized?
There's a mode that unquantized record.
Oh, so you can even do like completely off the grid.
Yeah, I don't know how far off the grid it'll go, but yeah, you can do unquantized.
Oh, that's cool.
I think that just might be when you're tapping shit in or something. Like I haven't fucked with the unquantized too much, but yeah, there is a way to get into unquantized mode, and there is a way to do what they call in between the steps. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Like
that's really attractive.
It's like per step swing, basically.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And you can do individual track swing too, which is cool. But yeah, like I forget. It's a hold key combo basically, and then you use the swing knob while you're holding down like that step, and you'll kind of get it off the grid.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Oh, that's real appealing.
Yeah, I mean, for the fucking price, dude, I was like, this thing's worth it. You know, especially the price I paid for it.
That's a good price if it didn't make fucking audio.
Yeah,
Still a hell of a
the sequencer
sequence.
alone,
The beat step. Is that not comparable like to like the beat step price?
Oh, yeah, that's like 200 or something.
It's essentially the beat step
Yeah.
under the hood there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it is. Probably exactly.
It's cool. I'm digging it. Just not the sounds of certain voices, you know.
Yeah.
But then again, that's what processing is for.
Yeah.
So
It looks cool. They did a pretty good job with the design of it.
Yeah.
I'm using it as a big outboard drum module, basically.
Yeah,
with
nice.
the module. It would have been nice to have like individual inputs. You know what I mean? To trigger the tracks too. But
Does it look like you could maybe they might expand it later with that option, or is it
doubtful. The back's pretty filled.
Okay.
With all the individual outs and then the different clocks. You can do some nifty shit with it too, though. Like the metronome has an individual output also. Like everything has an individual output. You can adjust the metronome to be a certain time signature. Like the default is 1/4. I've been leaving it at that because that is essentially now a divided clock for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Which I am routing to like other shit in the modular.
Is it a square wave or is it like a pulse?
I'm not
like
sure. I haven't actually listened to it. I've just been using it as a clock. You can have the analog clock coming out of it, and then you got your metronome, which is essentially you can have that as a divided clock to whatever. Yeah, you can do like 1/8, 1/4.
Yeah.
I don't know how many more drum modules I'll be buying in the near future. You know, if I can get this thing to fulfill my needs between that and the rhythm and everything else going on. I think that was a solid release by them.
Because I think that's like DR110 circuits in there. So I think I saw the Din Sync guy was like kind of throwing that some shade because he was like, enjoy my circuits kind of thing. Like,
Really?
they're exactly what I built. But
Really?
he didn't make that either, so I
In
don't
the
know.
DrumBrute?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. See,
it
I
was
had no
based
idea
off
what it was based off of. I wasn't sure.
Could you imagine a noise engineering drum machine?
I mean, I'm kind of trying to build one.
Yeah, I know.
Like, I'm trying to get there. I hope the hell he releases more drum stuff. That fucking Pico drum
Oh, yeah.
and the Pico DSP.
Yeah.
Those
like-
look awesome.
Yeah, they do. If I'm going to get more drum modules, it's probably going to be one or two of those in the foreseeable future.
There's like 64 samples on that drum
Yeah,
module or something.
and you can load it with whatever the hell you want. It can play two at once.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And you get
so
one
it's
like,
essentially
CD
2 in
parameter
1.
over 2 of them or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
But you got 2 trigger ins, 2 outputs.
That's awesome.
The big DSP that they released, I was like, yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I already got a ZDSP and all that stuff, but having that much different effect functionality in 3 HP
Yeah, that's
and
ridiculous.
stereo output,
Yeah.
I'm
Fuck
like,
yeah.
I'm on that.
That's
for sure.
stereo, too.
Yep.
Fuck.
Wow.
Yep.
There you go. I'm on the train, too.
Yeah, I want at least 2 of them to run like the DrumBrute through. You know what I mean? 2 different voices through at once. It's like, I love shitty sounding reverbs almost as much as distortion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, I don't have much hardware that does that. Like most of that is still software for me.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, a lot of the hardware stuff is clean, like super clean.
Yeah.
How clean can I get this?
Like the Eclipse, that's like the Eventide stuff, super clean. But the Ensoniq DP4 that I have, that's like a dirty motherfucker. That thing, that's like got some nasty reverbs. I usually have like a short room reverb or a plate on that thing with some other stuff because you can like chain them. But you have the ASRX. That thing has the same effects basically.
We've discussed what we liked that came out in 2016. We can discuss our disappointments of 2016.
Well, you were. I remember you were fired up for the Rainmaker, and then whenever you got to play with one, you were.
I think it would take a long time to learn it, and for what it can do, it's huge. It's probably cool, but it wasn't like, oh man, I need to like. That's the kind of thing that I need. Not a big fan of it, and that's a hell of a large module.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's good stuff in it, but maybe not too.
What's some stuff that was like, you got and then went on the selling block? I also have the diode was record speed, but
diode was record speed. I have to look at my muff sent messages.
I wish there was like Modular Grid had a versioning, so I could go back and look at like, 3 versions ago, that's what I thought I had or thought I wanted or had, and clearly I don't have that anymore.
Yeah, when I stumble across screenshots of previous setups, I'm like, what is this? It's completely different.
Why did I think that was okay?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm just getting like my used to this modular setup too, and like all these modules, and now it's like kind of transparent. So.
Is there anything else on the list that we wanted to cover?
We did want to talk about the Koma.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Kit.
Field kit. It was a Kickstarter.
It's still going. It's.
Are you sure? Because you can't order any of the kits anymore.
Yeah, I think they're sold out. But the Kickstarter, I think, is still active. They hit their goal within 24 hours, and since then they've like surpassed it. Like
right, but they're not offering anything that people that backed it can't get.
I don't think it matters. You can't just stop a project. Which is why people were pushing for
like watched it go up another $1,000 just sitting here.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
$284,000.
Yeah,
and their goal was 21,000.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, I think they added a whole nother batch.
It looks like you won't get it until May, but I don't know if anybody will.
We're supposed to. They sent out an update to everyone who backed it so far, saying like they're still keeping on track with their original deadline or ship date that they said, which I think was March.
Yeah,
for anyone who ordered like the first like 100 batch or something.
Super early bird kits are no longer available.
Yeah, so anything beyond that, I don't think it's going to be shipped till like May.
That's not too bad.
Those come in March. The first shipment comes in March, and then the new ones, you can still get those.
So field recording mixed in with noise mixing, feedback, like all in this little package for $300. Yeah, it's got the radio tuners in there. This is cool. I'll hop on it, and then like I hit refresh the next day because I came back to work and like just refreshed the page to see how I was doing. It was like it just blew up.
That's
I was
awesome.
like, holy shit! Like, there's a lot of people out there interested in making some noise. I was like, that's fucking cool. I don't even know what else you would use that for. Like, that is a noise making kit.
Or maybe like an ambient. I can see people using it to make ambient, doing some
4-channel mix.
Like standalone, like one person in a art gallery with just that. I could, maybe running it through a reverb pedal or something.
Yeah,
I can see that.
I think a lot of the audience might be that. I can't. It's pure speculation. I don't know who they are.
That wasn't really what I thought of when I saw it. You know what I mean? Like I saw it and I was like, this would make a nice standalone expansion to my modular. I especially like the little motors and stuff like that. To have all that in one little package with a mixer and all the other added shit, LFOs and stuff, I'm like, that's fucking slick. You know what I mean?
I know it's well designed.
Yeah, it's well thought out and it's pretty cheap.
It's like affordable for people to get into, whereas a lot of modular stuff is not.
Yeah,
true. I mean, $300. That's like the cost of one module, and yet it does the things of like 6 different modules.
Does it work off battery too?
That I don't know.
Because that would be amazing too, to actually have a completely portable thing.
9-volt PSU.
Yeah.
So I guess it would work off a 9-volt battery.
Fuck. So you could just walk around with that thing, headphones.
Came out of nowhere too, you know what I mean? Like once I saw it, I was like, oh, I'm hyped for this. You know what I mean? Something that I had no idea even existed before. Now I'm like very looking forward to March so I could play with it. I was like,
they're good designers. All their shit is like that. Sequencer is still rad. Another thing I kind of lost over that's new that I won't get is that WMD performance mixer.
Yeah,
that thing looks fucking great.
It's
huge and it is like very expensive, but
isn't there an expansion already for it?
With the mutes and everything.
Because that was when we were looking at it, we're like, oh, it'd be cool if there was mutes.
And he's
Wait,
like, we
hold on.
got you covered, fam.
Yeah.
You want mutes? We got fucking mutes.
But like stereo aux send and
Yeah.
return, I think. Like it just seems like.
Yeah, I have a feeling like if I had that, it would just like be my main mixing console.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
not just
Totally.
for modular. I'd probably be routing everything through that shit.
Yep,
you
because
know?
it'll take line level too.
Yeah.
It's fucking smart.
It is smart.
They're all VCAs too, because you get CV control over every channel and the volume.
Damn it! Don't make me look at that thing again.
It's huge.
It's
Yeah,
huge, and it's
yeah.
like,
I don't even think it could fit in that gap you have there.
yeah,
Like-
it would have to be like in a separate fucking rack or something. But I don't know.
I mean, Ornament and Crime.
Oh yeah,
He's got one coming.
Got
up.
one.
Yeah,
way.
that's the more I look at what it does, the more crazy it seems.
And they still work on it.
Yeah.
because it's all open source. There are a few people working on it.
Yeah, that's gonna be hard not to get.
If you want to build it all yourself too, somebody was like, it's under $100, I think, to
Wait,
build
seriously?
it. If you're gonna, it's all super tiny surface mount soldering. But
Yeah, that's not a big deal. Is it all easily? Is it stuff you can easily get? Is the bill of material
so.
reasonable? Okay.
yeah, I think the only thing that's semi tricky are the screens, but it seems like there are a bunch of suppliers. For
Oh, okay.
that.
Yeah, I noticed someone asked us some questions.
Oh yeah.
And SoundCloud.
Yeah, on SoundCloud and in Muff, someone asked to give more examples about feedback patching. I would love to answer that question, but like it's kind of hard to do. I don't know.
A lot of
Fe-
it's got to find it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I feel like feedback patching is kind of like circuit bending. There is no definitive way to do it. There's no
Right, but like circuit bending though, there are these sort of like, you're interested in this, here's how you get started. I think a lot of the feedback patching, there's no good starting point. You obviously have found that, and people are trying to pick your brain.
I suppose, I don't know. It's just kind of hunting for things that sound good. You know what I mean? Certain modules, certain places where feedback belongs.
I ran into one today, which was piston Honda into the Polaris, but also molting the piston Honda out into the filter CV in on the Polaris, and that got some like really wet kind of shit going.
Oh,
It was
nice.
kind of fun.
Nice. The piston is definitely a feedback friendly module, dude.
Yeah.
Mark 1 and Mark 2, they have some certain spots. The Mark II had the external input and then like the separate output.
Oh yeah,
And so even if you don't have anything going into the input, it sends out like it's like a rectified version of the main output.
Oh,
I think
So-
I remember reading about that.
Yeah, so I used to route that to anything else on the piston, dude. Like the piston is just a feedback fucking powerhouse. Like you send that back into like the waveform CV input or the FM input or anything like that, or even the fucking interpolation.
Waveform. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, there we go.
but you don't have that now. So what was some of the ones you were getting feedback when we were on tour?
On tour, Polaris a lot.
Okay.
I was feedbacking Polaris in different ways from other sources. Off the top of my head, I remember I had the output of braids malted to an attenuator, and then that was going back into the FM input, and I think the timbre input very mildly, on top of going to the FM on the Polaris that it was being routed into.
Now, when you were doing that, could you just set the attenuator to the value that was working, or were you constantly playing with that?
Once you have it attenuated like through the mixer, you don't have to fuck with it too much.
So it doesn't start getting squelchy. It doesn't start getting out of control.
It can. Like I had to sound check it
Okay.
carefully every night and listen to see if everything was still where it was supposed to be, and more times than not it wasn't. So like, I had to just dial it back in. And that's the crazy thing about feedback too. You never always get the same thing that you heard the first time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird. And that's
Immediately.
what is alluring for me about it. You know, it's the ghost in the machine. You know what I mean? It's turned your cold calculated machinery into something that's chaotic, a living creature. The herb verb, I had that feeding back into itself. It was like a no input. And then I had CV hitting the mix on the dry wet on the feedback. The herb even has the CV out, which is generated from whatever the fuck is going on the module. And then I can route that into things like the tilt. So it's essentially generating its own CV into tilt, which is adjusting the sound of it, which is in turn adjusting the CV of it. So it's just like an endless weird CV loop. It's trying to generate based on what it's doing. You know, it just little subtle things like that. You know, I mean, it didn't make like huge differences in the tone, but just
I guess one thing a lot of people won't do, maybe off the bat, is put like an attenuator between the signal, and instead will just route it direct and think like, oh, this is nuts. And it's like, you kind of got to attenuate sometimes.
A lot of times, some shit you can just go nuts with it. Attenuation, very key. It's one reason why I still have blinds in there. It's not the most exciting module, but it's pretty helpful module when it comes to like attenuating and even inverting feedback.
Yeah.
You know, or whatever you want to feed into something else. I could probably give a shout out to Scott Harvestman on that one. Like, he kind of really opened my eyes to the world of feedback when I first started getting into modular. Like, I didn't even really know what it was until, you know, just seeing how he always mentioned that he liked to build modules that were feedback friendly. You know what I mean? Like, he had the whole, I think it was the Evan feedback console.
Oh, yeah.
And things like that. You know what I mean? And I had a bunch.
Mixer.
Yeah, the Matrix Mixer and the expansion for it, which you could route a pedal into it and then back out. Like, I had a bunch of pedals at the time, and I never routed my pedals into itself before, and I was like, oh, fuck it, I'm going to buy those modules and give those a shot, and I did it, and it was just like, opened the world for me. You know what I mean? I was like, this is cool. You know what I mean?
That's awesome.
Suddenly, pedals that I haven't even touched in like a year or two were now a staple in my setup. Routing this thing into itself, turning it into a fucking feedback machine. The only good maths is a dead math.